Is our man ready to go? Nick Bain, Mississippi House of Representatives, District 2. Chair of House Judd B. in the House. Good morning, Nick. How are you, sir? Good to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, good morning, Paul. Thank you as always for having me.
You got it. The House and Senate come in at 4 o'clock this afternoon, so you still got some time to travel, as we say. What time usually you guys have the committee meetings this morning on a Monday?
Well, they're usually Monday is a travel day. There's a Ways and Means committee meeting at 3 today, so I'll leave Corinth around lunch or so, and hope to get there by 3. I got to do a little law practice before.
Well, I forgot about that. You do have a real-time job somewhere too, don't you? So I have no idea. Somebody stole my stack of stuff here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. But let's talk about, first of all, the initiative bill and where we are with that bill now.
Yeah, that was a bill we handled. It came over from the Senate. If you recall, last year the House sent the Senate one and went to conference. It all fell apart. This year the Senate sent us one. I handled it handled it last week on the floor. And the bill basically, it's not much different from what we had, except for it outlines a couple of things that can't be done, like you can't appropriate money through an initiative process. You can't do anything that has to do with PERS through the initiative process, and you can't have an initiative for abortion or any abortion issues. It also, when it came over from the Senate had a really high threshold of voters that had to sign the petition for it to go onto the ballot. That we presented that on the floor, and it was amended. It came over at 12% of the presidential electors, which totaled about 250,000 people for a petition. It was amended in the House to basically cut that in half to about 110, 120,000, which was around the number, Paul, if you remember, back when the initiative was going on, it was around 110, 112,000 people. So that number stays the same. It's different in the sense that it is a statutory. It doesn't go into our Constitution like in previous initiatives that you have with marijuana and eminent domain and stuff like that.
So really, what happens is it makes it easier for people to get something on there, but tougher for it to become law, realistically, because it's got to go through the filter of the legislative process.
That's right, and the legislature can still provide a legislative alternative like we did before with the other initiatives, and it gives the legislature could also change it. If it went into our Constitution, the legislature hands were pretty much tied. In this situation, like I said on the House floor, I have a problem with things going into the Constitution because we are a ever-progressing state. Who would have thought when in the 1890 Constitution that when they were doing that 200 and something years later we were going to be putting marijuana into our Constitution. And
legal gambling too. So.
That's right. So I like the I like the statutory part so that we can evolve with the state.
Well, I mean, to me, and I think most people who understand this, putting it in the Constitution is just something that comes back and bites even the people who want it sooner or later because things change. And that was just does any other state do that?
I can't. As far as you know, I don't know. As far as I know,
here's the other thing. Here's the other thing, Nick. Is that when you get some people, certainly the left media in the state, which the little that's left of that, have a problem with putting abortion on there. But is it that unusual to say, okay, we can have an initiative, whether it's constitutional or statutory, and these are the things off limits? I mean, I would think you couldn't put poll taxes back on there. So there are some things that are sensible and justifiable to put on there, and these are outlawed as far as being part of the initiative process. I look at that and say, it's common sense to me.
Yeah, no, and that goes right along with the intent of our Constitution. Our Constitution put stuff in there that you couldn't do local and private laws, and I believe even the Constitution says you can't do anything that has to deal with the public employee retirement system with PERS. So that follows along with our precedents that's already been set in the state. And as far as abortion, I answered that question on the floor, and when people asked about changing that, and I gave them the answer that, we have supermajorities in the House, supermajorities in the Senate. We have all Republican elected statewide officials, and every one of those run on a pro-life platform. So I think it's pretty safe to say that the people in Mississippi are pro-life and don't want to deal with abortion.
The other part of that too is to understand what it would do as far as the appropriation process in the state of Mississippi. We went through possibility of, they were talking about Medicaid expansion, putting things in like that as far as, Medicaid expansion. And, I mean, that could be several $100 million more from the state budget if that was put in the Constitution, whether you like it or not, whether the amount of money coming in from Washington as far as matching funds dropped in 5 years or 10 years, it's in the Constitution. It's got to come out. So the appropriation process was something that worried a lot of us.
That's right. And the initiative puts in there that if you're going to have these initiatives, and Medicaid expansion is certainly an issue that could be initiative driven, but you've got to have a fiscal note. You've got to be able to provide where the money's coming from, where you're cutting it from others. So that's an important part of it, is to make sure that the voters are not being misled by outside groups, are not being misled by people with an agenda, and making sure that we have the most fair, direct democracy initiative that we can.
Nick, you've got a pretty good hold on this. Do you think it's going to get all the way through this and go to the governor's desk, or you think it's going to maybe have to wait till next year?
I don't know. I am told that the threshold there of the 12% of presidential electors has been kind of a line in the sand with the Senate. That's what Chairman Fred Shanks has told me. I am not on the Constitution Committee, but I handled this at the request of the chairman, and happy to do so. And I think last year that's where things kind of got sideways, was with that threshold. So it'll go to conference. It has a reverse repealer in it. It will go to conference, and we'll see what happens. I do think the people need an initiative process. Now, I don't want to be like California and have 8 or 9 or 10 on the ballot every year, but I do think the people need an initiative process.
What's the deadline on this one?
It's in conference, so it's whatever that conference deadline is, and I don't have that. A couple of weeks. Conference weekend will be that last weekend of the session. So by the time we get it out of that,
is there either or take it or leave it on the 106,000 or 160? Is it 160? I think you said 160.
Yeah, about one. Well, I think 150 or so. That's up for negotiation. The House's position is we want a lower threshold. That's what we
I understand
passed,
that,
which was about that.
But you guys haven't figured on something in between a middle ground somewhere yet.
Right.
So that'll be done
right
in conference.
Now that's what we're working on. That'll be the biggest issue, I think, on conference. I think everybody agrees with the procedure, with the issues. It's just that threshold number of voters.
Yeah. One of the other big bills, and again, the left is not happy with this one. This is Senate Bill 2346, addresses the generational concern by stopping some of these digital books. We didn't have digital books 10 to 15, 20 or 30 years ago defined as sexually oriented, including books with depictions of homosexuality, lesbianism, sodomy. Some of the pictures on these things are more than stick figures now, and they're pretty graphic. Through an amendment in the House, Judd to be your committee, it expanded it also to have obscene and sexually oriented digital material taken out of libraries. And again, you caught hell for that. So explain where you are and what you did or what you wrote.
Yeah, that actually came from Speaker Gunn's initial bill that the House passed,
right,
and they changed.
Nick, hold it, because we got a break coming here. Just hold it, and we'll get back, because it's a rather weighty subject. The bill does prohibit public school libraries from K through 12 students, and also public libraries that serve adults and children alike from contracting with vendors for digital or online resources that violate the state's pre-existing legal definition of sexually oriented material. I think we've all heard the wisdom, when you know it, you will see it. So we'll talk more about that coming up next with All right, because you had mentioned the House Jud B Committee Chairman Nick Bain, my guest this morning from Corinth, introduced the amended Senate Bill number 2348 on the floor on Wednesday of last week and told fellow lawmakers the goal of the legislation was to, quote, protect minors from sexually illicit materials, which is a noble cause and something that's a no-brainer in common sense. So where are we with this bill, and what's the problem with it?
Yeah, the bill does three things. Basically, there's two parts to it that does three things. The first part is it requires an age verification for anybody that's going to access a pornography website. They've got to have a digital age verification and be over the age of 18. Some of our states around us, Louisiana, has done this, and it's a trend that you're seeing nationwide. The second part, and the part that's got people up in arms, are it does two things. It requires school districts to contract with a vendor who provides internet services. That vendor must have safeguards in place that protect students from sexually illicit material. That's the first part. The second part of that is a public library has to do the same thing. Provide a contract with a vendor that provides safeguards to protect children from online sexual illicit stuff, and that has to do with also some online digital books that you might get. The issue there, which was pointed out, is we need to tweak it, and I don't have a problem with it. We need to tweak that for the public library section to make it under the age of 21 or 18, probably 18. Because the way it was written and the way it was put in there was any person, and I think that probably goes a little far. But the intent of it is to protect children and protect minors from sexually illicit material, and I don't have any issue with that whatsoever.
I don't think anybody does. You just have to find a way to do that. Again, when you bring the library, is it necessary to bring the libraries in here? Would it be better to just forget about the libraries right now, because the most important place will be in the schools, where we're kind of under fire with CRT and everything else?
Yeah, it certainly might be. And of course, this has a reverse repeater in it too, and it'll go to conference, and that may be something that gets negotiated out. It was a part of the original bill, and as you know, sometimes when we're doing this stuff, we kind of put everything in there that we want and buffer from that position. But that's certainly a possibility, Paul.
Did any of you guys who worked on this bill, did you have a chance to look at some of that material that's being, certainly in elementary school, but it's even worse in middle school, high school? Have you had a chance to look at some of that?
Yes, we have. And
did it shock you? I mean, were you a little shocked to see that?
It's amazing what kids can be exposed to. And even this isn't going to prevent them from being exposed to stuff. There's still mountains and mountains of stuff out there. But we can mitigate it the best that we can. But you're exactly right. The stuff that they see, and as a father, it's really disheartening and concerning how quickly they will lose their innocence in this day and age.
Well, and the other part of this, too, is when you have some of these Democrats and liberals arguing about this, it's so far-fetched. It's just farcical that this is about the birds and the bees. It's gratuitous. I mean, it's pornography. I had people send me some of the stuff from some of the classwork. I said, surely, where are you getting this? This is New York? No, it's closer to home than that. That's just amazing.
Yeah. It's amazing, and some of the arguments I can't reconcile that with my own beliefs and my own life experiences.
Yeah. Well, and Representative Yates was saying Ernest Hemingway, Canterbury Tales, Dracula, or 50 Shades of Grey is the intent to prohibit or protect children from seeing this, as what you said. And I think she had some problems with, or did she have some problems with, not being able to identify exactly what would and would not be bad. Who's going to be the arbiter to make that decision?
Yeah, she did, and we'll work through that process. And Shonda's a good friend of mine. And I think she may have been misreading it a little bit, because we do have some literary exceptions in there in the bill. So but we'll work through that. I have confidence that we'll get a product out there that's going to do what we want to do.
Nick, I was looking at your committee, man. It handled a lot of bills. You got a better chance of winning the lottery, it looks like, than to for a bill actually to make it on the governor's list. But then I said that, and I saw there are a lot of duplicity in here. I guess, for instance, on the bill that we're just talking about, there was the digital online resources database that the speaker had, HB 1341, and it's just now a Senate bill. Okay, so a lot of these are duplicates in a way. Or H 1314 or 1315 pornographic materials. So HB 1287 or 1285 unnatural intercourse, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of these are. Any other bills out there that you want to talk about that are remaining in your committee that's not dead?
Yeah, we've got a couple. We've got the we've talked about the firearm suppressor bill that's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about that. That I think is going to get to the governor's desk. We also have one. You may have saw some news last week about these credit cards, which are charging when you go and buy ammo. They create a gun registry of people. We had a bill that basically outlaws that, and because of the work that we did in our committee, Paul, MasterCard, Visa, and those have put a hiatus on that, and now they're not even going to do that policy. We're still going to pass the bill and still make it law in Mississippi, but that's another, like I said, that's another win for Mississippi that we stood up and protected our Second Amendment rights. That bill will come back through to us. And we've got some other ones that are looking at crime. You got the CCID bill that part of that comes through my committee. So that one, as you know, is very contentious and very heated. But I think you will see that be passed in some capacity.
I was looking at some of the bills that died in some Senate bills that died in the House calendar on Friday when you guys came in. That distinctive card tag, Ole Miss baseball, that one died. Forestry, allow 16-section land, timberland sale, that one died. Transportation, allow and regulate autonomous vehicles. Is that one dead?
I don't know. That transportation.
That was that transportation.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I will say the car
asset.
tag one.
Go ahead.
I'll say on the car tag one. Generally, we have a big car tag bill that we put all of those type of car tags in.
It could be in that one then, huh?
I think you'll probably see it stuffed somewhere else.
All right. House bills that died on the Senate calendar last week. HB 246, real property, right of first refusal. HB 722, Mississippi opal, designate as state gemstone, Becky Curry's bill, and I'm not sure where that one is. We're not going to have the opal as our official gemstone?
I don't know. I thought I saw something that was going to go through, but maybe not. Who knows? I mean, it's my understanding the opal is I didn't realize that the opal is the only natural gemstone in Mississippi.
Yes.
So
I mean, come on. Who would have problems with that? Why would that die on the calendar?
Yeah.
And
now, we got blueberry as a natural fruit.
Well, probably kill the blueberries out there. Come on, man. Any other bills that you want to talk about in the remaining time that we have here? Because we have a couple of more.
We got a couple of weeks left. Right now we're going through conference on these general bills. The biggest issue left really is CCID stuff and the budget and trying to get everybody paid and then get home.
Nick, was there anything, certainly out of your committee and Judd B., was there anything that tweaked some of the medical marijuana laws? I know that there were a couple that still that are alive, but anything that you know of?
No, not as far as that. And we did some stuff that had to. I don't know if you talked to Lee Yancey. We did some stuff that had that impacted tianeptine, this gas station heroin that we call that is out there, and I think you're going to see a good product with that as well. But no,
good, because there's a. Go ahead.
No, not specifically on marijuana. No, we didn't do anything in my committee with that. But
good deal. I was just going to say there's a new report out there on tianeptine, and it's not good. it is wreaking havoc. So hopefully that bill will make it to the governor's desk. Nick, as always, great, concise, and informative, and we thank you, sir. Appreciate you taking the time.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you.